Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Auto Arcadia. I am one of your hosts, Colin Wood, and with me is
Thomas Hope. Hi.
Smashing Tom. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. How are you doing, Colin?
I'm not bad, man. Not bad. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight. In typical Auto Arcadia fashion, I haven't a clue what we're about to talk about though. So, would you like to? Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was just gonna say I've been having some thoughts, been jotting them down occasionally. So and I think maybe a couple of these might be quite interesting topics to discuss. I'm interested to know your thoughts on all of them, obviously.
Awesome. Well, let's get stuck in, Chief.
Okay. I want to start with one that might end up waylaying the entire discussion, but
Okay.
because I imagine you've probably got thoughts on this as well. But right, so at the moment there is two kind of main roads to get to where I work from my flat, both of which are subject to a 2-lane down to 1-lane kind of merge for construction, which means both of them are a fucking nightmare in the morning, like during like everyone going to work rush hour. And it's just been really getting on my nerves in the morning because first of all, it's really inefficient the way that people will largely queue in one lane, or they'll blast on the side and then try and kind of nudge themselves in, and it causes all this stop start, and people just don't know what they're doing. But
yeah,
in the times that I've been driving to work, I've had to be on my horn so many times because of people who merge by turning and indicating in the same motion into a lane that you already exist in. It's tense in the morning because I'm like, okay, if I'm in the lane that's being merged into, which car on my right is likely to just pull in front of me at any moment? It's genuinely, it's really shocked me how often people do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I've experienced this as well, and it was I forget where we were. We flew back into the UK, myself and Bex, and we were going to our dad's, and we were coming from Manchester, and we're driving along, and I'm in the middle lane of the motorway because the left-hand lane, slow lane, is absolutely chocker with people trying to get off at this exit, and out of nowhere, this car just comes out and from the left hand into the middle lane in front of me, like as you say, indicating and turning out in the same motion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we were champing along at sort of 80, 90 leptons per hour. And this absolute tool just pulls out in front of us doing 4 miles per hour. And it's like Darwinism at work. Like, what are you hoping to achieve? Because
it is scary. It is absolutely scary. Like, I don't even mind, in traffic when you're waiting for someone, I'm often will let someone in, provided they indicate to me and have time to process it. Like if they're sitting in the lane beside me and their lane, is coming to an end to merge, and no one's kind of letting them in, I'll just, I'm fine, let them in. It's a car. It's totally fine. It's when people go right to the end, and then you're driving along and you have to keep a fucking eye on them to be like, okay, at what point are you just going to randomly decide that you want to be in this lane now? Is it going to be when there is space? Is it going to be when there was space and now there's not? I just find it really frustrating, and it's both of the routes that I can take to get to work both have this, and they're both massively tailed back. Like there's one of them which is how people, another thing that really gets me on the road around roadworks and traffic in general is how people approach queuing when queuing spills across a roundabout. Where people just literally sit on the roundabout in the queue, thus blocking all directions of travel from the roundabout rather than just the one that's currently queued back.
yes,
That one, there's a roundabout in town that suffers from that really badly, and people are it's like they're trying to navigate a shopping trolley around people in the shops. Like there's cars all kinds of different ways trying to navigate past each other to go on their route, and it's just a mess. And it's kind of just asking for trouble, in my opinion, and I find that very frustrating when you're on the road.
yeah. I've never had that. Well, no, I have. I have to say, from experience in these though, I think this is more confined to cities and big towns.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, city driving is shocking.
Like round my area, and certainly around where we grew up, I've never really had this. And I struggle to see why, because the same problem exists in both places.
Well, bad drivers.
Well, yeah, bad drivers and also congestion because it's everywhere. Like,
that is true. Like, I mean, quiet places do still get a bit of traffic. They just get like really, really highly localized traffic for like intense periods of time.
Yes, that's it exactly. But then it's the same as like what I mean, you're talking the same sort of issue. It's just extended because there's more people trying to get to the same place in a bigger place. And I think that might be it. And I think a lot of it's desperation, you know. Like a guy who's absolutely crossing his legs because he needs a slash. And instead of just going when he was at work, he's like, oh, I'll just race home really quickly. And then he gets stuck in traffic and then he pulls out in front of somebody and then, you know, Darwinism happens.
I mean, yeah, maybe it could be. But like, I also think that people are just a little bit oblivious sometimes.
What, like risk blind or danger blind?
Aye, or maybe know the best at judging like closing speeds and things like that. Like I remember a time when I was on a national speed, and I was just like, it was just like, you know, normal national speed limit road. It was a reasonable width, and along that way there was of course it was a golf club, and
sorry,
and I saw the Peugeot waiting at the gate, and I saw it kind of rock back and forward. So I was like on my guard, but you know, I was still maintaining my speed because like it's my right of way. Like if he wants to wait there until I'm past, then that's a really good idea. But no, he didn't. He rocked back and forward, and he suddenly made his move to go. You know, I should say.
Yeah.
Sprung into action, accelerating at a leisurely pace onto the national speed. And again, that was like a full brakes on kind of movement, you know, where you end up literally right behind them.
Yeah. Do you know the thing you said there was the indecision before he made that choice to pull out in front? That is a really common with this sort of thing. Like, if somebody pulls out in front of me, 9 out of 10 times I've seen them sitting at a junction and there's a bit of desperation about them, like they're almost anxious about trying to get out onto the road.
They've been there for a while and they can't seem to find a gap because they keep like, you know, they're too anxious to get out onto the road to just like, you know, pick a gap and go for it.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, the people that do this, even if they're in a car that can actually make reasonable progress, like a really large displacement diesel, what springs to mind immediately would be like a 3-litre Audi TDI.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a reasonable amount to get up and go about. I hate that I said that about an Audi, but anyway.
It's
so
okay.
Like,
we'll rip into them a bit later.
Good, that works. So like if they pull out in front of you, even if they have a car that has a reasonable amount to get up and go about it, like it could reasonably pull out in front of you and not cause you to brake if they got on it. They don't. It's like they pull out in front of you and then potter around. And I actually have a name for this.
Oh yeah.
I call it the Tesco effect.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain this one to me.
So there's quite a lot of shops in Dumfries, right? And they're all quite interspaced. Like there's a reasonable distance, but there's also a reasonable distance between the shops and people's houses. To the point where if someone's driving, typically they're gonna have, if they're not in Dumfries, it's gonna be a 10 to 15-minute journey, right? For me, example, it's like 25 minutes to get to the shop. So I can follow somebody, like I can pull out behind somebody and follow them from my house. And the standard of driving they have is really actually quite reasonable. Like they're keeping a reasonable pace, they're not holding me up, they're not like doing something silly like braking and like going across the white line for no reason and stuff. Like genuinely they're not actually that bad to sit behind.
Yes.
And as soon as you get within 5 minutes of Tesco, it all goes out the window. And they just everything goes to tit and it all goes pear-shaped and the driving standard falls off a cliff. And you know, I can actually follow people with people in the car and then we get to a point and I'm like, they're about to turn into Tesco and they're like, how could you possibly know that? I'm like, I'm just telling you, they're going to turn into Tesco. And they turn into Tesco. And if it's not Tesco, it's McDonald's. And my thought is, instead of focusing on driving, they get near the place they're going. I mean, it's just basic human nature, I think. They get near to where they're going and their mind takes over. So then they start thinking about what they're going to be doing instead of what they're doing.
100% see what you mean, and I totally agree. Like, I think you're kind of more likely to have a crash on a road close to home that you know, or get caught speeding doing it because you think, oh, there's that familiarity with this area and stuff. You're like, it feels like you're almost back or almost at your destination.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I can totally see the rationale behind this. Like, people's brains just are on way other things. They haven't really finished the driving, but they're no longer paying any attention.
Yeah, like they get to within 2 minutes of McDonald's and it's like, right, wee Timmy in the back seat, what do you want in your Happy Meal? And it's like, motherfucker, focus on driving so you don't kill wee Timmy's pal.
Yeah, there's guaranteed to be a queue at the McDonald's drive-thru, so like, you're fine.
Yeah, like it seems really common as well because it's more cars than I can do this with more cars than I can. Like, it's very rare I follow somebody into town and the standard of driving remains the same even as they turn into Tesco. Like, that's a rarity, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I would say probably 90% of the people I've followed, like, I sound like a proper stalker here, but like, just been driving behind, say, right? And they then turn into where their obvious destination and you keep going. Like, but when they turn in, their standard of driving hasn't gotten worse in the last like 2 minutes up to that point. It's arguably less than 10% of the cars on there.
Yeah, you do get some absolutely wild driving maneuvers in supermarket car parks. People just totally break down. They've got no idea. Like, I was telling you that story of someone who parked on the road rather than in one of the spaces, just as if it were a space, totally blocked it.
Yeah. Oh, actually, on the subject of parking, right?
Yep.
I have what may be quite a controversial opinion here.
You and a controversial opinion?
I know. How
Oh, no way.
So see if you have a nice car, right?
Yes.
When I have nice cars, I park at the back. Like, I have to walk the whole length of the car park. Like, I will not park near the front where all the idiots live.
Yeah.
It just won't happen. But even when I park right at the back of the car park, I take up 2 spaces.
Ooh,
So,
people won't like that.
I don't fucking care what people don't like because I like cars that are free of dings and scratches. So, like, when I reverse into my space, I will reverse over the white line, right? And I've done this in places where you have to pay for your parking as well, and I pay for 2 spaces, right? Like, I'm properly hardcore about this. Like, even if I have to pay for parking, I will pay for 2 spaces and I'll take up 2 spaces. And I think it's more acceptable then because I'm actually paying for them.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
But my whole view is, right, because I've been pulled up about this by numerous people close to me
I can
and
believe that.
and they're like, that's unacceptable. What if somebody really needs that car space? And I'm like, well, yeah, but lots of these people that think they need a car space also have offspring and they don't teach them to be respectful. So they kick doors open, or people just don't care because their car is literally a white good to them. So they just swing the door open and don't care, and they smash into my nice car that's nicely polished and kept clean and is the absolute apple of my eye and one of the second most expensive object I'm ever going to buy, apart from a house.
Aye, I get you. Totally get
It
you.
needs to be respected. And I don't understand the mindset of somebody who can't respect that, because I would never dream of, like, if I have dinged somebody's car in the past by pure accident, and I actually sat and waited on them coming out the shop, and I was like, mate, I'm really sorry, I've kind of dinged your door a wee bit. There's my insurance. And they never claimed, like, they clearly didn't care.
But you at least gave them the option.
Yeah, like, I took 45 minutes out of my day to wait on somebody coming out the shop, and that was worthwhile because that quite possibly is the most expensive thing that person's ever bought if they don't own a house.
So true. So true. And it's so annoying when you come out and there's like a little dent in the car and you're like, oh, thanks, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't take up 2 parking spaces because I'm a good person, unlike you, Colin. But I do park right at the end of the row, you know, where they have like the kind of chevroned hat, like semicircle.
Yes.
And I will let the car bleed over onto that so that there's plenty of fucking space between me and the next car over in the line.
Yeah.
That's I will definitely do that because it is really, really upsetting when you come back and someone's dented your car and just buggered off. It's really, really upsetting. Although speaking of that, I actually dented the door of my car on Thursday night.
Oh no.
I
Okay.
there's a bit of I opened it possibly too enthusiastically is how I'd phrase it
Okay.
into a concrete pillar at a Shell garage.
Oh, that's sore, man.
Yeah, it kind of is what it is. I accepted it, like I'm all right. See, if I do the mistake myself, I can live with it. It's when
Yeah.
it's the mistake is kind of like the damage is put onto me and I don't kind of cause it. So I was like, yeah, that'll probably be a bit of a pain to kind of make good. I might just leave it. I'm not sure. The car is absolutely filthy at the moment. Did I tell you that when on Christmas I like kind of semi-washed the car? It was weird.
Really?
I showed up where family were and they were washing their car and they were like, "Oh, do you want to wash yours?" I was like, "Ugh, not really," but like I kind of made a pawing attempt at it and like did not do a very good job. But I've just left it like that since. So there's like weird patches where it's like really, really dirty and then like a bit less dirty because I missed the spot earlier on.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not really super great at taking care of like the aesthetics of the car. Like when you say it's like your car's been like polished, and it's looking really good, whereas mine's like probably really grubby and covered in to be honest.
Yeah. See when you said that, and it's like I made a pawn attempt of it and washed half of it. I was like, there was a little blood vessel in my brain exploded. I was like, whoa, I couldn't deal with that.
Come on, man. Like I know how to wash a car, but it was Christmas Day. I didn't want to spend the time on Christmas outside washing a car. Absolutely not what it's for.
Fair.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
No. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I actually do admire the way you park, the way you said that, because you essentially do take up two parking spaces, except one of them isn't a parking space.
Yeah, exactly. I would be taken up too, but I always try and find somewhere where I can like. So, for example, if a place like that isn't available, the car park I often go to has like bollards and lampposts in like the row of spaces, and they kind of
Ah,
encroach onto the parking space, making it kind of narrower and tighter. So, for example, if there's like no space, I'll get right close to the two ones with the bollards because, like, I trust myself not to drive into the bollard, and it also lets me get like a little bit further away from any cars in the other line. Really, I just go for whatever space has got like the most space around it, or I can like, like the end of a row up against the curb or anything like that, where I can really get flush to one side to give like the most space to doors and stuff like that.
yeah, that makes sense, man.
It sounds when you say it out loud, it sounds like quite boring, but it's not something I consciously think about. Like I don't drive into the car park, stop and think, where is the best place? I just like see something that's like, good enough, park there.
That's mental because see, when I go into a car park, I actively look for a space that is the most easily defended space for my car.
That's kind of the way to look at it. It's like defensive parking.
Yeah. And as well, I have to add as well, I haven't always done this. I haven't always taken up two spaces. But back when I had my RX-8, which to my mind was my first nice car, I
Yeah.
always parked miles away from everybody, right? And there was like a spate of like a month where I was parking miles away from everybody, and then I would come out the shop, like shopping bags in hand, get to like 100 yards from my car and be like, "Fucking really? There's 200 spaces round about my car that are all empty, and you've parked right next to me."
Yes, and also that leads us on to the other little kind of parking frustration, which is when someone parks, doesn't hit you in any way, but parks so close to your driver's door that you can't get into the car anymore.
Yes.
That's really like that is the worst case. You come back out from like some horrifying shopping trip at some shopping center laden with tat that like you just really didn't even want to buy in the first place, and you're like, I just want to go home and not be here at all and not be around all these people, and then you're like, great, I can't get into my car.
Yeah. It's like you're having to do global opening and climb in the window. And it's like, fucking, how did my life come to this? Oh, it's because people are cunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also sucks driving a low car, like anything sporty,
Oh,
and
yeah.
parking in parking spaces because everything beside you is way taller and you can't see around anything until you're out of the parking space. Like your bonnet is out of the parking space. Then you can find it finally opens up and you're like, oh, I can actually see to my left and right.
Yeah. And you know the other thing that makes this worse as well, and I expect you'll have this with your car, because I drove a lot of coupes and saloons, they tend to be quite long of the nose.
Yeah.
So there's like a full like 5 or 6 feet of car out, just swinging in the wind in front of traffic before you can see what's coming, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's just not ideal.
It's not ideal. It does make parking a bit of an unnecessary faff.
Do you know one car actually which solved, and it's a car that I really want to own at some point, is the 6 Series, and there was the one with the weird arse where it's like the tail lights and the quarter panels done one thing and then the boot done the other.
Yeah, no, 100% know the design you mean. Yeah.
Well, the one after that.
So you see the church and the left turn behind the church. Ignore that and go to the next one.
That's it, exactly.
Okay, yeah, I know the one you mean though.
In fact, the one that came as a Grand Coupe, the one that is just one of the most beautiful designs BMW ever penned. It's up there with like the 635i, the shark-nosed one. It's drop dead gorgeous, just beautifully proportioned, although it's massive. It's like 5 meters long, legitimately. But they actually have, or had, an option where you could have, it was like on the side of the number plate mount almost at the front, and it was 2 side-facing cameras. So when you creeped up to a junction, you would press the button, and it would give you like the view of the left and the right-hand side of the car, but right from the very front of the nose.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. That's
a really good idea.
Yeah, totally. It kind of like, I don't know, it always reminds me of, when you're in the countryside and you see someone who's got like a house and it's one of those really bad visibility kind of like driveways, like it comes off at an angle and like there's a wall in the way. So they've got like that classic mirror, the curved mirror on the other side of the road.
Yes, I do.
Always that kind of thing always reminds me of that. Like,
I've got one at my house, so I do.
Really?
Yeah, because there's the corner that leads onto the road, like literally 10 yards down from my drive. But the mirror's been kicked over at some point, so all you can see is the sky.
Cool. And working as intended there.
Yeah, nobody, like from the row of 4 houses, has been like, you know what, I really need to reset that mirror so I can see what's coming. Everybody's just like, fuck it, full send into live traffic. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst. It's like a bad visibility thing, but at least you're not going on a 60 road. It's only a 30.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you definitely need a mirror in a 60, because in a 60, people come on top of you very quickly.
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't be like, oh, there might be a gap here in a 60.
No, definitely not. But yeah, no, that's yeah.
So that brought us very neatly on to discussing parking, which
was this one of your topics by any chance?
No, parking wasn't one of my topics. I did get a parking ticket from the university recently, despite actually being allowed to park my car on their in their parking space because I didn't have my permit displayed because I forgot to put it on. So okay, fair enough. Like that is one of those reasons why they can ticket you, no display in your permit. But it didn't make me any happier in the moment to get the ticket. A little bit gutting. But other than that, like I don't really have that many parking issues, to be honest. So I don't have like insane amount of parking complaints.
I have a parking ticket story for you, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So it was so they'd done away with parking wardens in Dumfries. They were like, these guys are too expensive. We're just going to let the police do it.
Really?
So, yeah. So naturally, everyone just started taking the absolute piss as soon as this happened. It was like there's fucking cars hanging out of windows and all sorts. Right? So I done the same as everyone else. So there's one road everyone parks on the same side, admittedly, and there's plenty of room to get by, but both sides of the road are double yellows. So I was like, right, I need to dip into the music shop. So I parked up on the double yellows along with another 100 cars, right? And I dived in, and then I came back, and there's a ticket on my window. I was like, all right, right. So opened it up, saw how much it was. I was like, right, cool. Went to the bank. I was like, I want this in pennies, please. And they're like, what? I was like, I want it in pennies. I want this much money in pennies. They're like, oh, okay. So I got it in bags. And I went round to the court to pay it, and I handed them the ticket. And I was crafty about it because they usually divert you if they see a bank bag that's full of pennies. But I put them in Tesco's bags, so it looked like I'd just done my shopping. So I'm in there, right? And they're like, oh, aye, for car, such and such. It was the red Impreza I had at the time. And they rattled the reg off. And I was like, excuse me? Say that again? And they're like, oh, X. I was like, no, pal, that's no it, actually. They've put the wrong reg on the ticket. And I just turned around and walked off. And I was raging because I took these pennies out to be like, haha, get it ready, you dick. Here, count them. And it was like, if I'd read the ticket correctly, I could just have ignored it. And I did ignore it. I walked out the courts with my bag full of pennies. Fucking hell, I need to go back to the bank and pay these in now. So I got back to the bank, and they're like, what are you doing here? I was like, you know these pennies you just gave me? They're like, yeah. I was like, I need to pay them all back in. They're like, are you fucking serious? I was like, yeah. But yeah, so the very first act the police did when they took over the tickets was just put the wrong reg on everything. So they're like, oh, we've been handing out tickets. None of them are valid, but we've been handing out the tickets. So I was like, that's fucking genius.
Do you get many parking tickets?
I've only ever had that one, and then I had one from DFS when I was going to college, and they kept phoning me up, and they're like, your ticket's now 500 quid. And I was like, cool story, bro, and hung up the phone. And I don't know, I think I still owe DFS like fucking £9 million for a parking ticket. Yeah.
I suppose that's the nice thing about Scotland. You can easier ignore them.
Yeah, well, I mean, the ones from councils and that, you will actually legitimately.
Yeah, you don't ignore the one from the council.
No, but like from a private company, especially if it was in England and they would like legitimately clamp your car for doing it, just ignore it. Like, don't even don't give anything, because do you actually know the background on
what?
Like what? So basically, somebody's car got clamped in Scotland, right? And they took the company that clamped it to court, and the court ruled that it was criminal damage, and that's why you cannot get clamped by a private company in Scotland. Legitimately, that's the reason. You can still, like, a council could still put a clamp on your car, but yeah, that's why you can't get clamped anymore.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, you don't see clamping very often in Scotland. Very often at all, actually.
No. A little consumer tip as well. So you know how they're moving away from clamp, and it's now like a big yellow suction device that goes on the windscreen so you can't see.
Oh, I've seen them like the kind of like dinner plate thing.
Yeah. All you need is a metal coat hanger. So I'm not telling anyone to damage this draconian company's equipment, okay? But if
that would be irresponsible.
That would be irresponsible, and it would not be a thing to do. But what to do is, if you have any device, really, it could be anything. Like, it could be like one of them suction cups that holds a fluffy dice on your car window, for example. And the method is the same for everything. If you just lift a little bit of that to let a little bit of air in, all of the suction force disappears. So if you have, say, a sharp piece of wire, you can just jab it through the side of the seal and it won't work anymore. And you should be able to lift it off.
Some consumer advice for anyone who's got like mobile phone holders and sat-nav holders stuck to their windscreen. See the wee sharp bit of metal, just yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need to do. And it has no correlation to the fancy clamps that they put on windscreens anymore. Yeah.
I think I've had quite a few parking tickets compared to you. I've probably had at least double, maybe more.
Really?
I tend to pick them up from the council as well, which is a real shame.
Yeah, that's the ones you don't want.
Yeah, I got a lot of them in when I lived in a particular place where there was really hard push for parking, and there was a council parking area at the bottom of the road that was like free. So it was like for residents, but the idea was for like kind of commuting residents. You can just leave your car there for permanently. If it was there for more than a day, you got a ticket.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a weird shape because it was a weird shaped kind of like area of ground. And one day I came home late. There was nothing on the street. I was driving. I just got back from my shift, delivering for Pizza Hut. And like just coming home, it was quite late. I was sick of being, just wanted to go to bed and stuff. And I could not find a space nearby, and I didn't want to have to like park miles away and then have to like deal with it. So I just kind of made my own wee space at the end in the car park. Not in the way of anything, just like it wasn't a kind of actual proper space.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got a ticket for that, and then I've had tickets for being on double yellows if in the same area. Like, again, it's so weird. It's always like, the one time when you do actually park there and you're like, oh, I'll move it in the morning, and you like kind of maybe forget about it until a bit later, and that was the route of the day for the traffic warden, and you've already been fucking done.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I actually had a lucky escape with this down in Bristol, and it's when I was working field based. So there was my van and there was my colleague's van, and we came down from the hotel in the morning and we just abandoned them on this pavement. Right, they were barely even parked. It was like they fell out the sky. And I saw the parking warden running down, like walking down the thing, and she was already writing the ticket out. And she stopped at my colleague's van, and I just sprinted across the road, threw my gear in the back, jumped in, and took off. And as I took off and started driving down the road, I saw him coming out of the hotel, and he just looked across. Bastard.
Yeah, damn.
So it's like literally used my colleague as a superficial lamb just to get out of there and avoid a ticket.
Well, I mean, one of you getting a ticket is better than both of you getting a ticket. Like, I got a ticket parked beside a fucking lock in Perthshire.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, I was on the side of a verge, and it wasn't an official verge, but me and my friend were a bit late, so like there was no parking around, so we made an unofficial verge. And yeah, apparently that was again a council ticket.
That's horrible. Like when I totally get it in a town centre because it's a pain in the ass when you can't get parked, and then it's more of a pain in the ass when you have to like work round somebody that's parked like a dickhead.
Yeah, 100%.
But when you're at a lock, you've got Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Dundee, Stirling. Apart from that, Scotland's fucking empty. Like, you could park your car in the middle of the road and there's nobody for 45 minutes in most places.
Honestly, like, I even though I seem to pick up parking tickets, I don't park like a dick when I do it. I just, like, it's just not a legal place to park, I do think about it. I think about it considerately. But like sometimes, a double yellow on a really, really quiet street at night is not really that bad for, if you're just leaving it there for a bit.
Yeah, it comes down to like, yeah, there's rules, but rules are there to be bent. Maybe not broken, but
to be tested.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, if you're sensible about it, there's really nothing wrong with the bending of a rule. Like doing 90 down the motorway, for example, isn't a problem at midnight when the only other thing on the road is two trucks and somebody else that's got the same idea as you that's just jetting down the road trying to get home.
Yeah, that's interesting because do you know what? I don't know if I would drive as fast at night as
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I would. I think I'm just like a little bit more cautious because like I agree. Like I used to love motorway driving at night. You could make time driving on a motorway at night.
Oh yeah. Do you know? I think I'm the opposite, man. I think I actually drive faster now.
Okay.
Like I take less risks, but overall I drive faster than I used to. And do you know why? It's because the day doesn't seem to last.
You've got more things you need to be doing.
Well, no, not even that. It's like I stop work on the Friday afternoon, and then I blink and it's Monday, and I'm like, where did my weekend go? And unless I'm out for a drive specifically to enjoy the drive, I want to get there as quick as possible to maximize my time doing the thing I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And just so happens I'm quite handy behind the wheel of a car, so the easiest way for me to save time is by driving really quick. So yeah, that's a bit. It's a funny one, that.
Yeah, I still definitely enjoy driving. Just while we were talking about people merging, and you were talking about you know, sometimes you get stuck behind someone who's a bit slower on the road. Especially, it can be especially bad around where you are, where everything's like, you know, quite twisty, quite narrow. There's not that many decent opportunities to overtake kind of safely.
Yes.
There are some, but they're like, you know, what happens if the one place when you reach a nice stretch that's good for overtaking, there's loads of, you know, oncoming traffic and you're just kind of waiting. I was actually driving in Dumfries and Galloway, and I was going to the kind of east, kind of the east of it,
Yeah.
northeast, you know, up towards Ayrshire. Driving down, you know, like some of the kind of like the smaller, kind of more windy roads. I don't know if it was an A road, like a 4-digit A road, or it was a B road. I'm not sure.
Yeah, man.
But I was boosting along, having a, you know, a great time. Honestly, fantastic roads, you know. And I've driven it a few times now. I'm starting to get like remember it, get the hang of it. I understand where places that I should not be going too fast around here, because it's like, you know, a corner that continues beyond what you would normally expect and tightens, and you know, all the places where it's just kind of like a bit of caution, but also the places where you can maybe stretch the car's legs a little bit.
Yes.
And that's great. But then I came up again. I say it again. I came up to just, I think it was like an A3 or something like that, just kind of driving along. I mean, they were honestly by no means driving slowly along that road. They were. I've been stuck behind cars on that road that are properly cautious. Like, nothing scares me more than anything towing a caravan, but also like a big kind of SUV, because I'm like, oh my god, that might be rented, and these people might not have any idea where they're going and be driving like 30 the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were making decent pace, but like, I kind of was gaining on them and gaining on them and gaining on them, and you know, like you see them, they disappear because the road undulates and twists and turns, and you can just see that you're just starting to get a bit closer and closer. And then I got behind them, and I was behind them for a little bit and stuff like that, and like I backed off because I don't really want to like chase you ahead and stuff like that, because that's really annoying when you're just like on a road and someone behind you is like right behind you, but won't overtake or anything like that. They're just kind of like in your rear the whole time. So I kind of backed off, and then after a while, he just kind of like, or the person just kind of like made this like last minute kind of turn off to the left, but then didn't fully commit, and I had to like kind of swerve around them because they took me by surprise, sorry.
Yeah.
And I then only afterwards realized it's like, oh, they pulled over just to let me pass,
Ah.
which was honestly really nice. It completely caught me off guard. I did not expect them to let me pass. Like, I'd almost like kind of cooled off a little bit and just like went into, I'll just follow at like a kind of reasonable distance, just kind of chill for the rest of my journey. But they were like, oh no, on you go. So I got to enjoy the rest of the road actually, which was really nice.
That's really nice. And I was about to say something based on what you just said there, where it's like you don't want to sit behind somebody. And I kind of get what you're saying, but where I'm driving a lot of the time, as you said, it's usually particularly twisty, and you can go a couple miles before you get a chance to,
Yeah, definitely.
especially if someone's doing like a Midlands.
Oh, like 45, 50, the absolute worst.
Yeah, because it's so slow. But the people that tend to drop right back to 50 also tend to go like buggery on straights. So it's like when you're in a car like the little Capture that I've got through my Copart adventures now, I can really quite easily keep up with 90% of drivers around the twisty stuff in it. It's not difficult. And then it gets to the straight, and my little 1 litre is all out of puff, and everybody else in their 2 litre diesel shot off and left me standing.
And then as soon as you get to a set of corners, suddenly you're right behind them again because they've slowed down to like 40 to tackle those twisty, tough bends.
Yeah, but like even if I was in a faster car, I would not feel guilty about sitting on somebody like that, because the guy that you were following had it right. It's not my problem that you're driving slowly. It's your problem you can't keep up with the traffic. So if you don't like somebody sitting at the back of your car, pull over and let people pass.
I mean, in an ideal world, yes. Like, it's not, I know it's not, that's not always practical, but like, it's especially acute on single track kind of roads where there is like places to like pull off and laybys and stuff. But when people just kind of continue on at their set pace, which is clearly slower than the flow of traffic.
Yeah, like there's like no, it's absolutely, if people continuously sit 2 inches off your bumper, the problem isn't that everyone else on the road is too aggressive. The problem is you are too slow. like the standard of your driving is not sufficient to keep up with the flow of traffic. Like that's and I totally get why people would be annoyed by it, but I absolutely cannot stand by being sympathetic to people like that. I just, on principle, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating, and it's exactly the thing where, if you do go into the back of someone like that, you're at blame. Even though the court of public opinion might absolve you, being like, they were driving at this speed for so many miles and holding up so much traffic. In the eyes of the law, you're to blame.
Ah, no, not necessarily anymore. So there was a case I believe it was in Scotland actually. It was a motorcyclist and a woman driving, and the motorcyclist went into the back of the car, and it went to court, and I believe it became like what do you call it?
Precedent?
Precedent, yeah. So the reason it went to court was the guy was following her, and the guy came up behind her, not sitting right in her bumper, but he was following her, came onto a straight, and he came up behind her, and she slammed the brakes on, which caused him to crash in. And it was challenged. It went to court, and the person that was driving the car, she essentially said, "I felt threatened because this bike was behind me." And then the judge essentially said, "Well, why did you brake? Why didn't you just let him go past you? You were on a straight with no oncoming traffic. Like, if you felt threatened, the best thing for you to do is let him leave." But you essentially didn't have any reason to feel threatened, because if you were able to read the road, you would have interpreted that he's about to overtake you.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's now a thing. So it's not necessarily always going to be as cut and dry now as well. And I can't wait for that to become public knowledge and people start challenging their insurance companies on it, because there's so many instances where I've heard of people like hitting the backs of cars, and I'm like, that clearly is not your fault.
Yeah, I mean, but the way insurance attributes blame is no the best at all. Like, the UK insurance industry is something we've both probably got quite strong opinions about too. Maybe that's for another day.
That is for another day. There's a couple of hours of content there alone.
most certainly. But yeah, like that's kind of crazy annoying. I mean, I suppose the actual behavior of being stuck behind someone, kind of just not getting the vibe of the road, like really misreading the vibe of that particular road and going much slower than everyone else. And you could maybe say that, like, being right up their arse, flashing your headlights and like tooting the horn is probably like maybe kind of like an example of kind of like quite aggressive bad driving behavior. Not everyone would say that, but I'm just saying you could think of it that way.
You could, yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, fucking hell, I've done that before, but yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. We've all been annoyed, and then we've all been in our like, in kind of invulnerable kill box, and we've been angry, and we've been like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally relate. And like, actually, that brings me on to like another thing I've been thinking about, which is possibly something we could make a regular if we can get some input from people listening. But that's a kind of confessions booth for driving, like our kind of car driving bad habits. I mean, we've covered quite a few of like what you may interpret as bad habits already, with like taking up 2 parking spaces and sitting right up the arse of someone when they won't get out of the way.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I will say the bad habits aren't always the fault of the person who has the habit. Like, a lot of the time they're born from what happens to that person that then makes them formulate an opinion that nobody can open their doors without destroying my car, for example.
Aye, that's fair. It's like a little bit of a learned experience, yeah. But yeah, I was wondering if we could maybe do that and just have like a little bit of a judgment-free area where people can kind of confess to some of the things that they may not be the best for when driving, and just get it off their chest.
Yeah, man, that works for me.
I've definitely got one which kind of never really bothered me that much, but apparently like it's disrespectful and dangerous to other road users. But I wouldn't say I never indicate on the motorway, but I don't do it very often. Like, usually when I'm driving on the motorway, it's like no that busy. If it's really, really like, nose to tail, I would indicate. But, most of the time, as long as you're pulling out and you should be giving everyone plenty of room if there's plenty of room on the motorway to kind of do what you're doing and just kind of drift out. So yeah. I can be bad for not always indicating when I'm on the motorway, which is like not the best. But I mean, I do drive a BMW, so it's almost like mandatory that I don't bother with indication. No one needs to know my next move.
Yeah, it's like if you owned if not a BMW, if you owned a Subaru, you would have to wear a trucker cap and start vaping.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah,
just like the car refuses to indicate. It forces you to not indicate because the little, the little kind of like flick to indicate like 5 times or whatever.
yeah,
That's really annoying. And sometimes you try and flick it and then like like you flick it down and you think you've clicked it so that it's like on, but you haven't. So then when you go to flick it off, it's just been on the kind of like flick 5 times. So you indicate left and then trying to flick it off, you start indicating right and you look like a tit.
yeah.
So you just don't bother.
I'm totally with you, right? If you're not on the motorway, I think you should be indicating in good time to let everyone know where you're going.
Aye.
But see, on the motorway, if you're in the middle lane to overtake a truck, right, and you're making up on a car, like you pulled out earlier than everyone else did, and then you see a car that was in front of you, and you're now looking at them from like a 3/4 angle, and you can see that they're bearing down on the truck. It shouldn't come as a surprise to you that he's going to want to overtake that truck as well.
I am sitting here nodding. This is something that I think I'm pretty considerate on the motorway for noticing, for being aware of when traffic is approaching like slower moving vehicles and might want to move into the lane that I'm in, or just like kind of just being aware of the movements of traffic around you on the motorway. Like I think some people are so shocked. They're like, "Oh my God, there's cars behind me." They're like, it's you should be kind of aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely the thing. And I think the problem is if you have good roadcraft, like you can read the road, you expect the same of other people, which it's not unreasonable because we've all passed the same test, Like
True.
everyone's done the same thing to get their driving license, unless they were around when God was a boy, and it was like drive forward, drive backwards, yeah, well done, you've passed, stamp the ticket and on you go.
You can drive every kind of truck now, by the way.
What?
You know how like the old license, just like they have like a much wider category of stuff that you could drive just on the single license,
Yeah.
and then they clamped it down, like they reduced the amount that you can get, like the kind of the tonnage of vehicle you could drive.
Oh yeah. No, aye, because you couldn't even drive drive a car with a trailer for a while.
Yeah, I was confused by what happened with that. They did momentarily block you from driving with a trailer of a certain weight, was it?
Yeah, but now it's just open. Like you have a car and trailer license all at the same time.
Aye.
Which it always struck me as a really, really silly thing because I used to drive with a car with a trailer regularly, and this is all hearsay. I hope you realise, Mr. Officer, but did not have the license at the time. So it's just like, well, you were never going to get caught for it.
I mean, you would have to be stopped to check on the license and run it for that to even come up as something that's like noticeable.
Yeah. And the thing is, as well, like the law was always really ambiguous because it was like you are actually allowed to drive with a trailer, but it can't be a braked trailer and it has to be 500 kilograms. But is that 500 kilograms for the trailer, or is that 500 kilograms for the payload, or is that 500 kilograms for it combined? It's like it wasn't clear.
Mm.
And I mean, I got pulled over by the towing a trailer before because the number plate fell off the trailer of all things.
A classic.
And it's like they checked my license and everything. They just weren't interested. They were just like, "Yeah, fire on, cool, ta."
God, trailers are terrible. Stuff falls off trailers all the time.
Yeah, I actually really like driving like I don't know why. It always just felt like, yeah, getting stuff done. Like going to build a wall with all this sand. But yeah, no, it was something. It was quite weird. Like, and I found it really funny that the thing that pushed this change was the national shortage of lorry drivers. Like, giving everyone the ability to drive a car with a trailer on the back was suddenly fix the shortage of lorry drivers was a fantastic.
Someone's aggregated that the transportation like job role up, and they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, we've got that number of people in transportation."
it's like some simpleton politician somewhere has been like, trucks bend in the middle, so do cars with trailers. That's a correlation. Let's go with that.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah, but no, yeah, no, it was a funny one. That's what it was. Do you know, I actually was going to do my truck license for a while.
Oh, aye.
And I didn't want like an Arctic license. I was just going to do like the C class. So it was like just a rigid truck up to like, well, an unlimited tonnage on a limited truck, essentially, is what the license says, a C, full C class.
Mhm.
And you know the reason I wanted it?
No.
Which it was solely to build like a track day machine and then build a wee garage on the back of a truck that I could drive to track days with.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
And I didn't do it because reality struck me, and it's like, how the hell am I going to afford to like buy, insure, build, and run a truck alongside buying, insuring, running, and building a track car?
Yeah,
It's like,
totally. Just do both.
yeah, you've got totally unrealistic expectations of what you can do economically here, big lad. Like, just forget the idea and be happy with just a project
Unrealistic
car.
expectations are my absolute favourite, man.
Oh yeah. But no, that was one that popped into my mind. That was a couple of years ago now, actually.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any confessions you would like to make of driving?
Oh.
I mean, I would avoid anything overly disclosive.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I was like, there's quite a lot of stuff I can't say here. No. Because I've pretty much said everything earlier in the episode that I'm happy airing.
Fair enough.
Like,
We did get some stuff from you earlier, for sure.
yeah. No, there's a lot of driving antics that will remain undisclosed until the time frame for prosecutions has lapsed, we'll say.
Yes. Is that a thing in the UK?
Yeah, man, you've got a statute of limitations for most offences, so you do.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we'll go into the French statute of limitations for speeding in a future episode, I'm sure, but we're gonna leave that be for the now.
Again, very, very.
Yeah, but very, very funny story, to be fair, as well. Yeah, and I've told you this off air as well, but yeah, it's a bit mental.
That's a good one. Totally good one. So yeah, that was another kind of one of my musings that I had of just kind of like some of the slightly kind of bad behaviour that we display on the road that we might, regret a little bit when you get home, but it's okay because you can be absolved, Spoof.
You can indeed. Well, I
I actually had one more thing that I was thinking about.
Hit me.
Well, I had a couple more things, but one thing that I did want to just kind of discuss with you is, so I was really, as I said earlier, I really had like a good drive out, was really enjoying it, and it got me kind of thinking what I ultimately want to do with the car that I've got. Like, what is my plan with this? Like, what am I doing?
Ooh.
Yeah, and I was like wondering if I was going to bounce some thoughts off you because like I don't want to go crazy with it. I really don't want to go over the top and make it, this thing that I've put way too much money into and is like kind of really super hyper bespoke and unique and stuff. I was thinking of like a kind of more OEM plus kind of vibe, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Well, you tell me what you're thinking, because as soon as you said like OEM plus, I was like, idea, but go on.
Okay, so the things that I feel I'd like to address on the car are the brakes. I would like a slightly more aggressive brake system, like, maybe slightly better, more aggressive pad.
Yeah.
And I'd quite like, I mean, I think the car sounds great actually at the moment, but maybe could it sound better? A new exhaust system might be quite nice.
Yeah.
I think I'm not really sure what the best way of getting a nice, easy power gain out of it, but I would be pretty happy if that car sat around the 350 to 400 mark. Like, I don't think I really need to go any higher than 400.
Yeah.
So some light stuff, just to make it a little bit more powerful. Not really sure if I would overly touch any of the kind of suspension and stuff. It's nice to have a car that's still definitely got road car suspension for the, a setup that's like quite compliant and soft and stuff for the road.
Yeah. So really what you're thinking is like a properly sorted fast road setup.
Aye, I think that's probably what I want, yeah. I want something that just is a bit quicker, brakes a bit sharper, a bit like bites a bit harder. Because at the moment I don't feel like I'm slowing down overly with those brakes. They lack they lack an impact, like a feeling of impact. They're fine. They do the job. I mean, I think they probably could be better, but I prefer a more aggressive feel to them.
Yeah.
And I was also contemplating, even though this would be a big one, and, I'd quite like a diff in it.
Yeah.
I think that would really help that car out a lot. It would really improve it.
I think it would. And I've never driven a contemporary BMW with a diff in it, to be fair. But like quite a lot of people I know who have like had like 335i's.
Aye.
And apparently that like a torsion diff in those is absolute game changer. Like it just has such an amazing quality input on the drive and the steer that it's just phenomenal. Quite a lot of people have said they're like colossal plus to the car.
Yeah, I think it's one of the big things the car kind of misses in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I would give you that. I mean, certainly, I think the most bang for your buck you can get out of any car is driver training is the first. Then after that, it's like weight reduction because a lot of it is free. Then you're looking at tires, and then you're looking at diff for me.
Yeah, the diff idea is one of those kind of like, it's kind of like the ultimate dream final piece of the puzzle, if you know what I mean, because like that's an expensive component.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're talking like a grand, 900 quid. Well, actually, no, you probably get one for like 850, 800, 750 in all likelihood. If you were to shop around and get it on a deal, which I don't think is that tall of an order, to be fair. And if you could find one second hand, I reckon you'd be talking 500 to 600 quid probably.
It's not unreasonable.
No, definitely not.
But then it comes to fitment.
Well, just so happens you know a mechanic, Tom.
I do. Is the mechanic willing to fit a diff? Well, do you know what? I'll fit a diff, but I'll not be able to do it alone.
I'd come up and help you, like, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So that could be the ultimate plan for the car. Just like a few very light touches to make it just a bit of a better drive.
Yeah.
I'm also very tempted to not debadge it, but downbadge it to make it a 1.8.
Oh, yes. I love that idea.
And get rid of all of the MTAT on the outside as well.
Yeah.
And just like, because it does actually look very much like a standard car. Just it's got the big brakes basically. If you removed all the MTAT, so yeah, I quite like the idea of that.
Yeah, that sounds cool. The thing that really sells me is the debadging or the down badging.
Aye. Do you think a 218 is a suitable debadge, down badge?
I remember go for the 220. If it came in a 220, I can't actually remember if they came in a 220. I know they came in a 228 because that was the 4-cylinder turbo.
Aye.
But like the actual sprightly one. And then it was like the 230i and then the 240i. I don't know, you'd have to have a look and see what they came in. But like a 220i, I think, because if you went for a 218i, I don't think they came with like the dual exhaust and stuff. But then this is me being an anorak. Because like I can spot an M car or like the like from 100 yards away, not by badges, like by trim and colours and fucking the brakes, because I'm fucking sad, you know. Aye. And
you're right enough. The 218 does not get two exhausts.
it's a bit fucking sad that I knew that, though, to be fair.
Straight off the bat as well. Oh yeah. I mean,
But
no one's gonna know at all.
Nobody's gonna know apart from people like us. And then what you're gonna get is like a nod of appreciation where it's like, a man of culture, I see. You know?
Yeah. The reason the 218 badge appealed to me is because that's what you see on everything. They're just or they're all 220.
Yeah. No, man, I think that's a properly cool idea, and it just the whole idea of it speaks to me on a level. I really like it.
Yeah, just make the car a little bit, a little bit sharper and a bit quicker, but also make it look kind of low key.
Yeah, man, definitely. One thing as well that you touched on is that you wouldn't want to touch the suspension.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it, if you know what I mean, but like that's quite an expensive part, and I don't actually hate it too much. It does have some problems. It's a bit bouncy.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I would say, and I think your car might actually be catered for by them as well, would be like a white line kit, which is like, it's like everything apart from shocks. So like you get a white line kit and it's a front and rear anti-roll bar, lowering springs and some bushing, and it makes things more adjustable, and it generally decreases body roll and makes the car more playful without actually disrupting much in the way of suspension kinematics. So the ride remains largely the same, but it tightens everything up through the anti-roll bars.
I totally get you, yeah.
And it's actually not bad. I was pricing them up when I was looking at the CLA 45 Mercs, and like for a CLA 45 Merc, it was like 400 quid for front and rear anti-roll bars, new drop links, and lowering springs.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
But yeah, no, that sounds cool, man. I'm definitely on board with turning what is essentially one of the best steers this side of a Porsche Cayman into an even better fast road machine. That just sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I don't want to make it overly. I don't want to make it too much, but I think that there's definitely achievable gains, and I'm looking forward to actually being able to modify a car a little bit more than just sticking a different set of wheels on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, man.
Although I am really, really happy with how those wheels turn.
They do look spectacular.
They look really, really good. Yeah, I'm very happy. They were a definite budget option to getting like a nice set of actual bronze aftermarket.
But it's nice when a budget option like that works, because like you see people going out and spending like 3-4 grand on a set of wheels, and then you turn around and you're like, that actually looks a bit dog shit. And then like just OEM wheels in a different finish.
Aye, done nicely. It looks really good because the car already kind of suits the OEM wheels. Well, most of them.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But yeah, so yeah, I was just kind of thinking about it, like what do I ultimately want from the car? Because I do really, really enjoy cutting about in that car. It's currently very, very untidy. I don't know how you feel about the inside of cars, but
yeah, I do like to have a clean car.
Do you ban people from eating in your car?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm like, just bring your feast. The more the merrier. As long as you can have a bit, just eat whatever you want.
This has got to sound really bad. I ban certain people from eating in my car. Children, for example, are not allowed to eat or drink in the car. To the point where if we're out and they buy, like, we get them a can of pop and they're like walking to the car, I'm like, you'd better finish that can because I'll bin it before you get in the car if you don't. But I have my reasons. Way back when I had the little Yaris, when I was doing mega mileage with work and I needed something economical, the children decided to make an artificial lake in one of the door pockets with Coca-Cola. So yes, the children are no longer allowed Coca-Cola in the car.
Fair enough.
But I mean, I have stopped the car and put people out and made them walk before because like they fucked with my air vents. Like that's a big one for me.
With your air vents? Wait, what?
Yeah, like all my air vents are all sitting facing the right way, directing the air into the cabin or onto the windows at the side. And if you've been sitting there, like if you've been fucking about and you've got like sticky fingers for eating sweets or something, and then you go pawing my dash and then you move an air vent, you're getting put out. Like that's it. Respect the car.
Do the kids just travel in the back of the car in like rigid silence from like?
No, the kids carry on. Like they get a bit of a pass because they're children. This is adults I'm talking about.
All right, fair.
If you jump into somebody's car and you just abuse the fucking thing, like feet on the dash,
Aye, okay, fair. That can be really annoying.
Yeah, like I'll chop your feet off and you won't put anything on the dash. Don't do that. That's not nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's also the same thing with like, when you give someone a lift and they get out of the car and they absolutely fucking slam the door, like the car rocks and you're like, all right, you don't have to shut them that hard at all.
It's like that is not needed. Just let the door go. It will close under its own weight.
Pretty much, yeah, and you can obviously tell if the door's not properly closed.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd rather close the door for you than you slam in it. Like, I've already had to have work done on one of the electric windows.
Yeah, it's like I don't need you to cause me more cost. Like the car is good enough at that already. No, it's definitely a thing. It's like, no, be nice. Don't abuse the car. It's not needed. Yeah. I really don't like people mistreating my cars. That's kind of the takeaway from this whole episode.
Yeah, no, I completely frustrating. Like, I'm okay if I mistreat my car. It's my car. I'll treat it as I please. But when other people mistreat my car, it's annoying. Especially because like I'm really considerate to other people's cars on the road. Like, I give people as much space as I can. Like I don't park near people. Like I don't park up against someone. Like, I think about it and I'm considerate, and I think that's what upsets me when people are not considerate back.
Yeah. I think you've just kind of hit closing thoughts there, actually. It's going to sound very nursery time, but treat people as you would like to be treated. And remember that even if you do treat people as you treat your own car, some people actually like their car.
Yeah, totally. Just assume that car is important to whoever's driving it.
Yeah. Like, don't just be like, my car's a white good, so I don't care about it, so nobody else cares about theirs. That's not the way to go.
Absolutely not. And like you just kind of spread a bit of misery when you do stuff like that as well, which is not right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just a bit cunty.
Not.
It's a bit of a dick move,
Yeah, I totally know. And that dick moves lead to road rage, which is awful for everyone. So try and avoid it.
Yeah, like, don't take time off of people's lives through your own stupidity. Getting somebody stressed takes minutes off their life.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to send in any of their actual car confessions, anything they're willing to own up to that they do, that they feel guilty for, tell us and we will absolve you. We'll discuss it, and there may be some constructive criticism, depends on what it is, but we will absolve you of your driving sins.
Yeah, man. I think that's a good shout. We need to put that out there. I'm looking forward to getting something back here. I hope we get something back here. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, I hope we get stuff we can actually tell other people about, not just literal crimes that people have committed on the road.
Yeah, like we don't want to hear about you. My bad habit is tailing Range Rovers to steal them. We don't need to hear that.
Yeah, we don't need to hear that you drive everywhere at 150 mile an hour.
No, we do not. But like, if for example, you leave little post-it notes on people's cars going, "You parked like a bit of a prick, didn't you? Does it feel good?" Like, that'd be quite funny. Well, no, actually, it wouldn't, because see if someone stuck a post-it note to my car, I'd lose my shit, man.
Oh, yeah, sometimes people do leave post-it notes on my car. They usually say fixed penalty.
Yeah, no. I'd actually quite like to hear from a traffic warden or a policeman to see how they feel about that. Like, because
I suppose it would be interesting to see the kind of other side of the fence.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, because I know how I feel about it. But I'd like to know how they feel. Like, is it literally just a job, or is there somebody out there that's getting like some horrible sense of entitlement and happiness from it?
I mean, I think it's ultimately just a job. I watched years. Do you remember years ago there was a TV show on B called Driving School?
No, I do not.
Okay, right. Well, I think it was BBC Bristol, and it was 97, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure. It was the 90s. It was some time ago, and it followed kind of people in the Bristol area, and one woman who lived in Wales, I think, as they were learning to pass their test. And it followed like the driving instructors and them teaching them how to drive and stuff. One of the people who was on it, I know a lady called Maureen, became kind of semi-famous because she was, she struggled to pass her driving test. She'd had so many attempts at it, and I think she did in the end, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. But the main point of this is they actually has like some B-roll to that show. They filmed some people doing their, I think it's like an advanced proficiency driving test for the police. Where they get like tuition from someone and then they're like kind of constantly evaluated.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. One of the most interesting things I found is because they're in a Vauxhall Amiga or something like that, and they're just like bombing it about the countryside. They're told to like, use as much of the road as possible to increase sight line, so that you can see what's coming. It's like the way that they promoted that was like visibility and awareness of what's going on is like the most important thing. So one of the things that the drivers had to do when they were driving is narrate everything that they saw that was going on with as much detail as they could.
Right.
And I found that really interesting. Like, have you ever tried to narrate what you're seeing out loud while you drive?
Not in recent memory. I used to do it when I was learning.
Oh, that's interesting.
But not like recent. It's actually, that's one of the things I actually kind of preach a little bit, is using the whole road when you're able to do so. Not because of visibility, but because it opens up the fastest line through a corner.
It would depend on the road, I think. But yeah, I think on quieter country roads, it's actually a good idea to be partially in the center of the road, just so you can get more visibility.
Yeah. And it's absolutely one of those things that when you can do it, it's not something you just can do.
Aye, exactly. Yeah, exercise discretion and judgment.
One thing on this that I want to hear your kind of thoughts on is I'm a big believer in the best way to be fast is to be really slow. So
I know what you mean. I 100% know what you mean. It's that smoothness and consistency and kind of like almost like momentum conservation form of driving over, like stabbing at the pedal and the wheel.
Yeah. So like when I drive a new road, I don't tend to drive like my hair's on fire.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because I want to scout it out and I want to get a feel for cambers and I want to see where undulations are and where rough surfaces and anything that can upset the attitude of the car when I'm actually pushing on.
Absolutely, so, like that's stuff like that can be lethal.
Oh yeah, like a bad camber can ruin your day pretty quickly.
Hell, even just like a bump, anything that upsets the car, especially around a corner, and you're suddenly driving a totally different thing to what you were driving before.
Oh yeah, actually, I think I'd quite like to do an episode on this, Tom, which is specifically like driving, like what we're talking about here. When you're pushing on, you're putting a bit of effort and you're getting close to like actually not like 10/10ths and certainly not 11/10ths, but like fast road pace, sort of 7/10ths of what your ability is. And like the sort of attitudes and behaviours around that. I think that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I think this is a good time to wrap up. Yeah.
I was just thinking that myself, dude.
So yeah, that was some of the musings I had just about like cars and stuff, like stuff that I'd thought about. But I think the main highlight is I took the car out on a proper drive and I really enjoyed it.
Well, man, that is why we all do what we do.
Totally.
And I know we've said it before, but a sentence like that is really the only sentence you ever have to say to know that you're getting value out of your purchase as well. Like
I like to enjoy driving, yeah.
No, I'm absolutely in total agreement there. If you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Exactly. So yeah, that wraps us up for this episode. I hope that everyone kind of found what we were talking about a bit interesting. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on anything that we discussed, but I would also love to hear any driving confessions that people may be willing to air.
Absolutely. We need to hear these because I bet there's some gnarly ones, dude.
Oh yeah, no, people do some insane stuff on the road. Like it's okay. We all make mistakes. Like I've definitely made mistakes on the road. I'm not going to be like sitting here all pious and like, you are all impure and I am the greatest driver on the road of all time. No, absolutely not. I've definitely made my fair share of mistakes and it's okay. We live and we learn.
Definitely. Well, on that note, folks, send us your driving confession. Let us know what your bad habits are. And if you've enjoyed what you've listened to, give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. And as always, leave ideally 5 stars or higher.
Exactly. Thank you very much for